Great deal of pleasure to turn the program over to Dan Laird. As I've indicated, he is the webmaster. He is a member of the board of directors of the Historical Society. He was brought up across from Scriba Town Park, and in fact his family has lived in that area. His grandmother was very active, and I believe we'll be hearing from her a little bit later on. But in any event, my pleasure to turn this over to Dan Laird.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Tonight I'm going to talk about Scriba Town Park, and I'm focused mostly on the history of the park. I was interested in how the park came about. I lived through most of the 80s, 90s version, so I did a little bit of research, and I'll go over the highlights of some of the things that were constructed there, but I mainly wanted to talk about how the park came about and some of the day-to-day things that went on. Okay, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I grew up across the road at 826 O'Connor Road, formerly RD8 Box 157A.
Would you magnify that any more than that?
The screen won't allow me to make it any bigger than that. The screen is only 8 feet, so I'll try to cover everything. So I spend most of my waking time at the park, and I would get up pretty early in the morning, as probably started going over there when I was 4 or 5, and get up about 6 o'clock and go over to the park and play. So I spent quite a bit of time there. I also spent a great deal of time at my grandparents' house. They live next door to me. My grandparents moved into the area in 1963. They did have they were living on campus, which actually is a story of its own, because they were bought out twice when the college expanded. They did live on Washington Boulevard. They got bought out there, and asked the powers that be if they were going to be expanding south or west, because they would like to relocate in the area, and they told them south. So they bought a farm where Penfield Library is now. So about 4 years later, they got another knock at the door saying, you know, we'd like to buy your property again. So my grandparents said, well, to heck with you guys, and moved out here. Figured they wouldn't be expanding out here anytime soon. So my father built our house on a piece of land to the west of their homestead. I started building it in 1978 and completed it in '83. And it was a great neighborhood of people, great families, and we had a lot of great memories. My neighbors were Judy and Ray Hibbert, and I was friends with their kids, and then the Dingmans were the next house down. I was friends with their kids, and Burns, Wattis, quite a few of the kids that I've hung around with at the park were in the neighborhood, so it was a good place to grow up, and the park is a big part of that, so that's kind of why I wanted to do the presentation. Okay. So the very beginning of my story starts with a developer by the name of A.S. Wickstrom purchased the land for the gravel bed. It was formerly the Bacon Farm, and the reason for the purchase of the land was for gravel for the Port Authority for a new wharf to support the new L-roll plant that actually Wickstrom was the contractor on as well. It was a $3 million project, and the new wharf that they were going to construct and support with all this gravel was going to be holding 350,000 tons of aluminum ingots in order to support the first order for that plant. So it's an estimated 300,000 cubic yards of gravel from that location were used for the wharf. In the first 4 weeks of digging out the earth where the park is now, 50,000 cubic yards of gravel. So it was about a sixth of the project. And the completion was going to be done by January 20th of 63. And they worked 5 days a week, sometimes 20 hours a day, which I'm sure the neighbors loved. I'm not sure if my grandmother can confirm that, but. So this gravel pit was on top of a spring, and once the project was completed, they cleared out the area and the spring-fed pond had developed. It was used by quite a few of the migrant workers that worked on the mucks as bathing facilities, and also used by kids that like to go and drink and party after hours. So this caused some concern with the local neighbors, including my grandmother, Frances, and became a liability to the landowners if anyone got hurt or anything bad happened on the property. So. Okay. So next I'm going to play you some audio clips. Okay. I'm going to play you some audio clips of my aunt. I did an interview with her concerning this project. The first one's going to talk about my grandmother's involvement with the park. So, if anybody can't hear this, let me know. I've got it up pretty loud, I think.
The early part, I can give you some input, but I don't know that it is totally accurate. The latter part, we moved here in '71. So a lot of the stuff that I got from Mom was, over the phone type of thing. Stuff where she was just frustrated and vented. A couple of incidents that happened there, I can tell you, but there's not an awful lot. In the beginning, it started out, it was a gravel pit. Yeah, you knew that.
Right.
And she became involved with it because there was a lot of bad things happening there. Kids were going over there to drink and party, the whole scenario. A lot of people that were working on the muck would use it for bathing facilities, and it was just making a mess. So when she saw, loud parties or anything, she'd call the sheriff. The sheriff would come and take care of it, and pretty soon the town got investigating it and decided that it would be appropriate to take some kind of action to protect the town's liability. So that they were actually looking for someone to close the park at night. And they had a swinging gate, and she'd go down and put the padlock on. Then they decided that, well, it would be okay for swimming if they could get it clear, because it had a lot of downed wood in the water underneath the surface. It had all kinds of critters and varmints, snapping turtles, snakes, fish that people would dump in there. They go fishing, you come home and didn't want to clean them, they were still alive, so they dump them in there. Leeches. Okay, so they decided, well, maybe if they got it cleaned up, that it would be appropriate to open it during the daylight hours for people to swim or picnic or do whatever they wanted to do. So she and Dad went over and they cleaned up what they could, and they used to treat that pond with copper sulfate in the spring, and that would just about kill out the algae and other things, make it a friendly environment for people to use. Finally, they gave her a work crew, and because it was a gravelly type of, it wasn't really a beach, so they brought in sand, and she had them rake that every day, pick up the litter, general maintenance type of things.
Was it officially a park yet? When you guys moved out there, was it a park?
Yeah, it was called a park. I don't know
Okay.
whether it was on paper a park, I don't know. But eventually, they decided, well, they need to put up a bathhouse of some sort. So they got put up. And all the time she was doing this kind of supervision thing during the day, and then she would lock it up at night, and then she would go and if any disturbance, she would call the police.
Okay. So that leads me into my next story, which is one that my Aunt Chris will also tell you about one of the calls that my grandmother had to give to the sheriff's office.
Dennis Shattuck and a bunch of the other guys that your dad hung out with decided that they would go over there one night and they would party. They were quiet about it, nothing had came of it. So they decided, well, that's okay, then we'll do it again. So some of the people that were involved in this were underage, which means they couldn't buy beer, they couldn't buy liquors. Your dad went and had what they needed. And Mom, after the first time, she told him, she said to him, after dark, I lock it up, you stay out. She said, you have no business over there, don't go over there. He went over there. They're raising hell, it's noisy, they're drunk, and so finally she gets in the car and she goes over, and she takes a look, and she goes back home. She called the sheriff. The sheriff came over. She met him at the gate, let him in, and they're still,
Oh, yeah.
whoopee, you know, as only your dad can do. Now, you've lived the other half of this, you know what your dad was like when he had been good times anyway. The sheriff looks at him and he says, give me your name, so he's writing down everybody's name. He got to your dad and he says, what's your name? He says, Bill Laird. He looked at my mother and he says, is he yours? And she says, at this instant in time, regrettably, I have to admit, he is. And he says, well, Mrs. Laird, you better just, you take him home and talk to him and tell him that. And my mother said to her, you put him in the car and take him off. She said, where are you taking him? And he says, to the JV. She says, he goes with him, you take him. And she made him go over to the justice of the peace. and they settled it from there.
Yeah.
So,
This is your aunt talking?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is my Aunt Crystal. So, yeah, she called the sheriff on anybody that was over there, including her own kids, so.
Who's that? Oh, that's
So, now development of the park begins. There were 4 different deeds that were part of the acquisition of the land. The main one being the company that Wickstrom owned, signed over the deed in 1964. And other parts of the property came from Leon and Emily Jane Coe, Henry Julian and Stanley Pedowski, and Ward and Rosemary Pepper. So parts of each of their properties make up what the park is now. And I believe that, I couldn't find any record of it, but I believe that Ed Harrington played a part in gathering all these properties, and each one was bought by the town for $1. So I believe he worked out some sort of,
Wasn't there a Powers property there?
Chuck, I'm sorry. What's that?
Cheney Powers owned property there and the house burned and he died in the fire.
I don't,
Not part of it, huh?
no.
Okay.
There was a folder labeled deeds in the clerk's office, and these were the only ones in there, so
Right.
I'm assuming that.
That's where the Recreation Committee came in, and that Norma was vice chair of the Recreation Committee.
So Chuck Harrington gained approval from the Scriba Town Board to create the Recreation Commission, and got in touch with the landowners. And the commission was tasked with the creation of the town park. So Chuck was the chairman, Norma, of course, was on it. Stanley
Helen,
Hellman Dixon Marshall and Paul Hammond were on it. There's an advisory committee of William McDermott, John Downey, Paul Taylor, Norma Canale, Eleanor Ferguson, Charles Pilon, Kenneth Goodness, Robert Jones, Thomas Turner, and Doris Jock. I got a article from the Pal Times. I'm going to read some of it to you, and it includes much of what happened with the beginning of this. The key word cooperation has spelled success for the residents of the town of Scriba in transforming a formal gravel pit into an attractive beach and picnic area. This transformation came about as a result of much hard labor and work of many groups of volunteers, and has resulted in an excellent swimming facility, sandy beach, and picnic area at the Scriba Town Park. Over 150 loads of sand was donated by Paul Hammond. 22 acres of land were cleared with additional plan in the future. And they also planned a ball diamond and stocking of the pond to be open 7 days a week, noon to 8 p.m. Mr. McDermott is working on a float which will be used for diving at the swim area, and lifeguards Bill Jennings, Debbie Gillette, Esther Wart, Cindy Warner, Crystal Sheldon, and Arnie King were the first ones working there. There were many area residents and volunteers that helped with the bathhouse. The blocks for the building were donated by Frank Cedrona, with the town board contracting for erection of the building. Members of the town board working on the project included Supervisor Alfred Guai, Vincent Brennan, Leo Dillenbeck, Bernard Baxter, and Ken Martin, with Leon Coe, town clerk. Electrician Robert Ferguson also donated his time wiring the building. And there was also members of local unions, the Bricklayers, Masons, Plasters International Union, Local 54, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Works, 328, teamed up to construct the refreshment stand. Joseph Hammond was credited with clearing some of the adjacent land, and Robert Jones for work on the water line, and Cecil Wilson for several outdoor grills. So those are the beginnings of what would be the park. And this article was 1966.
Is that the current bathhouse and shore?
No.
Nope. There will be much need for the new bathhouse. So these are a couple of the, as I was going through quite a bit of the newspaper microfiche, I found these quite often talking about the park being closed for renovation. So there was quite a bit of work done over there, and sometimes it would have to be closed for maintenance, and they would put ads in the local paper announcing that. So, move on to talking about the monuments that were erected there. One, they were unveiled on July 4th, 1967. One's to honor all the veterans from the town of Scriba. The other is to honor Congressional Medal of Honor winner Curtis Shoup. Supervisor Alfred Guai also presented Chuck Harrington with a plaque for his outstanding and unselfish work on the project on behalf of the town and its residents. So he was recognized at the ceremony as well.
Dan?
Yes.
Mary Lou Noel built the
monuments.
She's here, she can probably tell us.
Well, you did a very good job. There's a picture of them.
Oh, okay, good enough.
I took those an hour ago. So it's still in decent shape. And the flagpole behind it looks pretty new actually, and the flag on it is in good order, so.
I think she claims that she probably carried some of those stones.
Go ahead.
Where they came from, I don't know. Does she know?
No, I don't know where they came from either, I don't remember.
No?
I can't hear
They look pretty heavy.
Yeah.
They're few and far between in Scriba.
All the fine stones in Scriba.
I didn't know what you
I
said.
said it's hard to find the stones in Scriba.
Yeah.
So the annual reports for the park, the ones that I could find were started to be generated in the early 70s, 1970. And there's a director's report and a waterfront director's report. And there's a general discussion of the activities, the attendance, and areas of possible improvement for the next year. First one I found was done by my grandmother, and it's kind of funny that in each of the documents that she wrote up and in all the minutes that she participated in the meeting, she's referred to as Mrs. Laird, where everyone else is first name, last name, so I don't know if she just, if that was some point of respect for her, so. So the first one that I have from her is in 1971, and it's kind of hard to just like, oh, that's great. Okay, so she talks about some of the waterfront projects. They had 10 lifeguards and had different sections of swim lessons for different age groups. And classes were held each morning at the park. The playgrounds and the picnic areas, right there are the 5 areas that they had designated in 71. The main playground is the one that's closest to the road now that had the teeter-totters and the merry-go-round and swings. The playground east on the waterfront, that's where the current bathhouse is. There's a play area near the East Picnic Grove, so that's farther down the property. There's a large picnic grove which is all the way down at the bottom where the baseball diamond is. And the West Picnic Grove on the waterfront is where the large pavilion is on the west side of the park next to the water, right before you get to the nature trail. So those were the 4 main areas back then. And she goes into detail talking about what each area was used for and what equipment was on each one. There's sandboxes, the play equipment, swing sets, and they also had arts and crafts programs back then. I'll go over some of the stuff that they made back then in a little bit. The Scouts used the park quite a bit. They earned merit badges for doing various activities at the park. The bookmobile came from the city library twice a week, and kids were able to loan out books from the bookmobile instead of having to go to the library to do so. And senior citizens of Scriba met at the park and were quite active with activities. Also went on a lot of trips back then. See, ones to Boonesville and Old Forge, attended movies at theaters. So that's something that they would meet at the park and plan those activities and go from there. And quite a bit of the attendance from the park came from areas outside of Scriba. In 1971, they estimated that 40% of the park had visitors from Mexico, New Haven, and Fulton. So quite a bit of reach even back then. And she gives thanks to a lot of different entities, including Niagara Mohawk. They got old electric poles from NIMO in order to kind of secure the sand on the beach to try to keep it manageable, I guess. Keep it from going into the water, which didn't really end up working, but. So that was pretty much the first annual report. There's a waterfront report, and also I'll talk about some of the activities that they did. The arts and crafts program would start in July and go to the end of August. They had projects that would do Monday through Friday from 11 to 3, and there were park girls that were available to help with the younger children. Some of the activities they did rock painting, decoupage, flower pots, egg carton creations, mobiles, salt pitchers, and bean mosaics. And they had 1 week designated as Nature Week with all activities relating to it. They also tried to do kickball tournaments, which I guess didn't take off according to the notes, but they discovered that they really liked playing softball, and they started a small league, and the kids enjoyed that. So those are the highlights from '71. I just thought I would go through that year because it kind of lays out some of the things that would happen. So the first waterfront report was authored by John Farrell, and their regulations were set up and enforced, and reducing some of the incidents that they had in past years in the beach. So the beach was fixed and maintained and well groomed, and said that it was looking in good shape. He reported that he had a good staff. Kept things clean, the bathhouse was in good order, and they enforced the rules well, and kept things under control. The Learn to Swim program, which was the swim lessons that I mentioned, were successful.
My girls learned to swim there.
A lot of people did.
You did? My girls. Oh, you, I never learned.
My sister and I did.
I never learned. I'm afraid of water.
All right. All right, I'm just going to touch on some of the key things that happened through the '70s. Some of the new pavilions were erected, and the areas were cleared. The Lower Grove was closed in '72. They didn't have any restrooms down there. The outhouse wasn't up yet, and there was worries about water contamination, so they didn't have it open at that time. They made the park posted property under the advisement of town lawyers and state police because there had a few incidents of people going in the park when they shouldn't have been there. It had to be closed a couple times due to having too many attendees. The water was so saturated with people swimming in it that they'd have to close the gates because they couldn't control, it wasn't safe, so they would have to limit the number of people. And at the time, there wasn't a fence there to really kind of like close it off around the beach, so that was the only way that they could really do it back then. And the need for dredging and chlorinating the water supply was realized. The water was starting to, according to the reports, had a need for being maintained more than just putting the chemicals in. And the chlorination of the water was dictated by the county health department, so a chlorinator would have to be brought in. And there are special permits for Scriba residents starting at this time, so they could get access to the park before people outside of Scriba. So I believe the next slide is a parking permit. So these started being issued in '72, according to the annual report notes. There were talks of having a sticker on bumpers, but I don't think that was ever done. So in '73, the nature trail was built, and it was used frequently by Mrs. Besh and the Nature Club. 4 new truckloads of sand were brought in, and 20 new picnic tables were built, and horseshoe pits were set up. The fence around the beach was erected, the first portion of it on the north side, and the baseball field was developed, but was still lacking restrooms, but they opened it up for people to go down. On 75, the outhouse for the Lower Grove was completed just before July 4th, which is one of the busiest years that the park has. The backstop was added, the base lines and the foul lines were marked, and they had a softball team play there on Sundays. The town park created a softball team, and they competed with other local area teams. The bicycle racks that are there now were installed in 75, so those are still, when I went to go take the pictures of the monuments, they're still there. I used them when I was little. The nature trail was reworked to be a little farther from the water. It was a bit of a hazard, I guess, when it was first put up, so they moved it back a little bit. The industrial chlorinator that I mentioned was installed and was available all summer. I guess the initial attempts, they tried to set up a chlorinator, and sometimes the water supply would not be up to par or up to code, but after they did this industrial one, it was more reliable and there weren't any interruptions of water service. They cleared the brush around the baseball field, which increased its visibility, and a lot more people used it as well. So. Okay, in 76, David Church was head lifeguard.
Switch slides now.
Fence was constructed on the west side of the water because there's concern with children coming down the embankment from the picnic area, and the lifeguards not being able, like their attention being shifted from that area. So the west side of the water had a 400-foot long stretch of fence erected and brought back to the large oak tree that's down by the entrance to the nature trail. The county held sports clinics there, which turned out to be quite popular. There's basketball, archery, baseball, tennis, and golf. New playground equipment was installed, a jumble gym, a rope hang, and uneven bars, and the tennis courts were put up, and got quite a bit of use when they were first put in. Right, one of the issues that's an ongoing mention in these annual reports is the need for better bathhouse facilities, because if you were there and remember correctly, there were 2 small bathrooms next to the snack shed, and they were probably the equivalent of what would be at your everyday gas station, just a couple stalls, and they didn't have sinks at the time. They got sinks installed in 77, but beyond that, the lacking of having large bath facilities wasn't a problem. It was mentioned in many of the annual reports, which I'll show you when it comes to a head, what comes about the new bathhouse. The expansion of the softball leagues goes on. There's quite a few teams that play down there. I believe they had tournaments of 8, according to the notes, so it became quite popular. And it was the end of a 5-year tenure for Bernie Klotz as park director. He resigned in his in the 77 annual report. Okay. 78, 10 new picnic tables are made, and there's a total of 77, but even with that many, they still had to turn people away because they were all full. So they had an attendance of nearly 20,000, and Mike Klein became the park director after Bernie Klotz resigned. (1979 and 80). In 79, the attendance is nearly 30,000, 29,888. This is in the notes attributed to gas shortages and people unwilling to travel and pay for the expense of doing so. So a lot of people stayed close to home and went. The park was attended quite frequently. There's new sandboxes, tetherball and volleyball courts installed, along with new signage put around the park to direct people where to go. In 1980, the attendance reached 35,000, which, according to the records I went through, is the largest year as far as attendance goes. Also attributed to the gas prices and the poor economy. There was a sheet that went with this year that showed the daily numbers, and there were a couple days there were over 1,000 people that attended the park, so it became quite popular during these 2 years. So, as I mentioned, the need for the new bathhouse comes to a head. The county brought it across some health violations. The park was out of compliance for 3 years in a row, so they were told to take care of it or they wouldn't be able to open. So, they first went through their first round of bids in '84, and most of those came back 6-digit figures, and the town said, well, that's not something that we can cover right now. And they went back to the county, and the county gave them 1 more year and said, this needs to be taken care of. You need to either rework your plans or come up with the money, or you're not gonna be able to open. So they went back, got more bids, and I believe they reworked the plans to make it more cost effective. And bid was accepted from, I believe, Dement Construction, and it was completed in 1985. And the next slide, I hope you can see it when it eventually comes up. These are plans for the current bathhouse that are there. So going from the 2-stall, 1-sink bathroom to many, I believe, 5 stalls on each side, a couple pairs of sinks, and showering facilities was a much needed improvement for the facilities at the park, and much appreciated by people that attended, including me. So there were, if you remember, there were quite long lines at the other bathhouse, and this one definitely reduced the length of the lines and made it a much better experience overall.
How'd they get the water by that?
The water,
Did the well hold up off of that for the new one?
there was, for the new one, they took water from the pond.
Oh, did
Yeah, there's actually in the blueprints for the dredging, it shows where there's the intake pipe comes in for water to go into the bathhouse. So there is a well for the drinking water, but for the bathing and the toilets, it gets drawn in from the pond. So. In the 1980s, I talked to Judy Talbot, who was the recreation director in much of that decade. One of the things that she pointed out was a successful program under her was the day camp program. I was also a part of this and quite enjoyed it. They bussed in children from around the area, and that was a pretty big deal back then. Most of the time when you'd have a day camp, parents would have to drop kids off and pick them up, and this enabled people that weren't able to do so to have their children picked up. The numbers initially didn't pan out to be worth the cost. There would be like 14 children on a 38-person capacity bus, I believe. But they kept doing it, and the program itself was successful, and a lot of children went through the program and still do today. I'm not sure if I didn't see in the notes of the current years if they still bus kids in. I think they're dropped off, but she was proud of this program, and it's mentioned quite a bit in the newsletters that I went through in the records. As I mentioned, the pond area is finally drained and dredged. there was about, they took the silt that was on the bottom and trucked it about 700 yards over to the baseball diamond. And in the outfield, they took the silt that was in the pond and put it over there and leveled it out and was used as fertilizer, I guess, for the grass out there. I don't know if any of you ever saw it, but it was a bit of a mess for quite a while.
Who was the person that drained it? Did they tell the company? Was it Dement drained it?
I have all the project specifications, but
And I heard that it took 4 days and the pumps ran day and night
to empty it?
to empty it, and they couldn't empty it. It kept coming back in so fast.
No, really? I know it eventually they did get it dredged because I walked through it because I just wanted to go check out what the pond looked like not being there anymore, and they did eventually dredge it, but I would imagine it would be quite a feat to stop a spring from filling the pond. It just said that the water is to be pumped out of the pond over the east bank of the pond and directed down the hill to the runoff creek, about 2,000 feet to the east. So, and the silt that was removed will be transported to the field. The transport spot's only 700 to 900 feet away, so. That was completed in '87. I believe it might have been Dement's, but I don't remember for sure. There was another folder about the dredging project that I didn't get pulled, so it was probably in those details. In the '90s, a new playground was installed in '92, which I'll show you a picture of. There's also development of the equipment. The building that is next to the snack shed now, it's like I don't know if it's called a storage building, but that was erected, plus the back of the bathhouse and the office and the snack area has a sloping roof coming off of it, and there's a deck there with a picnic table, so that's now a picnic area. That's when day camp is there, that's where they do most of their crafts. And but when day camp isn't in session, I believe it's able to be reserved for picnic for people that want to go there. So there's further development of the day camp program. They went from all-day sessions that were just planned out to they have 2-week sessions that were different themes like sports, nature, and so that's kind of what they switched that up. There's also haunted hikes, which they tried to get going for a couple of years, but they couldn't get enough volunteers, according to Judy. I was involved with one of those. I was one of the people going through the woods, making noise while people came by, so it was fun. I enjoyed it. I wish it would have caught on, but it didn't. So. I don't know if you can see it, but those are plans for the new playground equipment that is there now next to the office in the sand area, just beyond the rock wall in the parking lot. And this is a picture that was posted in the newsletter that says, check out the new playground at the park, with lots of kids playing on it. And all 3 of my children have enjoyed that playground. And the last big project to happen at the park was the pool. And the price tag on this project was $500,000. So working with architects and going through all the contract work, the plumbing, the electrical, the cement, comes up to quite a bit of money. But the result is a very nice area. I have the blueprints for that. These are done up by Albertine And if you haven't been up there, there is a wading pool that's over to the left side. There's the shallow area of the main pool, which is in the middle, and then it goes to about 5 to 6 feet in the corner, and then you go straight up, and that is the diving area. That's 8 feet deep. And at the bottom of this picture, there was some work done with the bathhouse to incorporate people to be able to walk through the bathhouse to the pool area from the outside. So. And this is the aerial view of the park now. You can see in blue the new pool area. Compared to a picture that Charlie had found of the park back in, I believe, about the 70s. Yeah, the layout of the park has been pretty static. It hasn't changed too much. So it's not too different. And we'll just zoom in with the next one.
There's no swimming in the pond anymore, is there?
Nope. And as you can see in the pond, that the dock that comes out, they have some canoes and a couple paddle boats I think you can rent. That whole area was where the beach was, and now the grass has grown in, so you can barely tell that at one point it was a beach. So that's definitely one of the biggest things that I noticed when you look at old pictures and new ones, that the beach is gone. It's kind of sad to me. But
One of the first things that I remember, and I had pictures, but I don't know what happened to them, they built a gateman's gate shanty for a man to stand in or a person to stand in to
Mhm. collect
collect money,
Mhm.
and it didn't go. They couldn't do it, and the government stepped in and a few things. Anyway, it was all sand, dirt, and it was brown, nasty brown dirt. And people complained, and my father and Bob Jones, and I know probably Ray, solicited money from the businesses in Scriba to buy grass seed. So for the grass, how they seeded it and had it. And that's not an easy thing to ask the
No.
businesses to donate.
So that's present day. And that's about it.
Where's your house?
Hang on. Actually, I don't. It's my mom's house. So. This was my grandparents' house, and this is my mom's house. These are the Ward's kids, Peppers, who live across the road. And my aunt did live directly across the road in this house, but she's since moved out. So
Is that from Google Earth?
yes,
What's that road right here before your grandma?
right here,
Yeah,
the Geehans who bought my.
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
2 houses down there.
Yeah, there's a couple of residents going back.
Okay.
So that's it.
Very good.
Thank you. If anybody wants to share any sort of stories, you're welcome to.
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
To begin with, I was talking to my daughter yesterday about this, and she was saying how she got mad at me when she was very young, because she was one of those people that wanted to go in and swim before it was taken over.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, and she says, you wouldn't let me, she says, all the kids around were up there swimming, and you wouldn't let me go. But I think you've done a great job, and as one of the first people to work with that, with Chuck Harrington, it was a lot of work, but it was fun too to see the changes.
I bet.
And as far as Fran Laird goes, she was very good about letting us know, and her eyes were very good at keeping track of what was going on over there in the park, and so she, we were very thankful to have her. And, I'm just glad in a way though that, my daughter or my kids never got an entanglement with her with what she might have done. But, Phil is here with me, and he was one of the, what were you? He was up there for,
Maintenance and lifeguard and water
and those that know my family, I had 4 children, and all of my children were up there. And my daughter was one of the ones that, took the younger children for their programs. She worked 1 year up there. My 3 boys all worked up there for about 4 years.
I saw all their names and reports, so.
So, I'm very pleased that this was done. It's part of our family history too.
Yeah,
And
it's nice to be involved with something like this that still goes on today and other children enjoy. A lot of the documents that I got from the clerk's office, I'm gonna be posting on the website along with the video of this. So, you'll be able to see the annual reports, the waterfront reports, all that stuff, so. It's all been scanned and put into PDFs, so.
How did you get interested in this? Did somebody ask you, did the Historical Society ask you to do this, or?
No, it's just something that I have an affinity for the location because, growing up there and, enjoying my childhood so much, and I told you I live just up the road, I haven't moved too far away, so. My mom has MS, so I wanted to be close by so I could help her out, but still, I enjoy being in the area and I bring my children over there too, so. Plus, I enjoy local history, so.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
do you remember the people complaining when the Wickstrom was taking the dirt out of there? They were in great big trucks, you know, the big, long, extra construction.
I was
To
surprised.
go down to the Port Authority,
Yeah,
and they made a lot of dirt, onto O'Connor Road and then Class Corners, and they went down the big hill and then turned left into traffic, which was
wow.
a hard thing to do besides
It's hard to do
using
now.
the gravel and stuff. That was bad, scary.
Yeah. Yeah, 20 hours a day.
And your grandmother was great because she used to be at the gate, and she'd be right there at nighttime when it said 7 o'clock. She was right there, shut the gate.
Sounds like her.
Good master.
Okay,
We're lucky.
thank you.
We're lucky to have a place like this.
Yeah,
Think of the youngsters that have grown up there.
Hey, no one's on the attendance now.
I don't think they keep those
Chuck
numbers.
Harrington deserves a lot of credit for starting that, and, he was a person that didn't want anything
Take the
said
credit,
to him. If, at the time, if we ever wanted to say something to him or get his name in the paper, it was no, you people take care of it. If you're the committee, you do it, and he would not take much credit for what he did. If it hadn't been for him that saw
Your
the,
son Phil.
you know,
He said
he
he's
had
coming.
a long vision. And if it hadn't been for him, I don't know, it'd probably still be a gravel pit.